This book is incredibly still and quiet, but it's actually probably more of a journey, in fact.
Was it harder to write as a result?
Actually, I started writing this one before I wrote the last one. I would have gone completely mad after Blur if I hadn't been able to write. I think like having a voice, you know, after you've had an audience like that, like you just not being able to sort of feel I had a voice would have been awful. I mean, it was definitely a sort of good premise for a story. You know, I was a staunch supporter of cities and nightlife, and I met a girl, married her very quickly, and on our honeymoon we swapped a bachelor pad in the middle of London for a farm in the middle of nowhere. What could possibly go wrong? What
could possibly go wrong? Now, of course, one of Blur's biggest hits was all about a bloke, slightly, you know, well-endowed financially and so on, a bit bored, who buys a house, a very big house in the country. So how?
Yeah, the irony of that is not lost. The irony of that is not lost on me. But even so, you know, even when we did it on our honeymoon, took this big. It was a starry-eyed plunge. And I did think I was being completely reckless and romantic and bold and daring, but you know, it's since occurred to me that it is just the next cliche in the book of rock and roll cliches. There is nobody who is ever in a half-decent band who doesn't actually live on a farm. You know, we're all farmers. You know, I met Roger Daltrey the other day.
Not necessarily.
And I didn't want to talk about, you know, my generation. I wanted to talk about, you know, meadows.
But you have described it as the kind of natural habitat for the retired rock star. Why? What is it about it? I mean, is it the opportunity to be a kind of big fish in a small pond? You know,
I think it's just very grounding after years of tearing around, living out of a suitcase. It's just a very, you know, you can't get more grounded than up to your knees in mud with a pair of wellies on.
You said that being a rock star was the easiest job you ever did. How difficult is farming? and how much of it actually, in truth, I think Alex, do you do?
Well, farming is actually done by machines, but no, I mean, I do get up earlier than, you know, I've sort of transformed from a nocturnal vampire to a sort of to an early riser, and you know, it's amazingly, I guess that's the sort of journey in the book. It's actually incredibly satisfying. You know, even it's like running a small country, running a farm. You know, even if you don't, you know, even if you haven't actually got your arm halfway up a sheep as it's giving birth.
Have you ever?
No. but I think the more time you spend doing it, the more compelling it becomes, and you know, I think it is something that people do kind of, I suppose, aspire